Without further ado, I want to show a brief clip of some of Susan's amazing work on the #1 show in America, Cobra Kai, and we'll be speaking with Susan right after. Here we go.
Finish up and then beat it.
Excuse me?
This is my mart. You ain't hustling no point at my mart.
I'm not hustling. I'm not homeless. I just need you to bring attention to the dojo, all right? I want everybody to see this sign.
You want me to flash my bits? That'll cost you extra.
No, that's the opposite of what I want. Nobody wants to see your bits. Just take the sign, hold it up in the air, and spin it around, all right? Do that all day, and you'll get your money.
Well, I want meth and a burrito.
You can spend it on whatever you want. That's how money works. Just do your job, spin it around. I'll be back later. You got it?
Got it.
Hold the sign up.
Who are you? A homeless person. Don't look.
Oh my God, we just made eye contact. Great, now she's coming over. You see what you've done? But what do we do?
Hey, open up and give me money. I ain't gonna hurt ya.
Lock the doors. They're right in front of her. You want her hopping in the back seat, smearing shit everywhere and slicing her throats? Be my guest.
Donut shops throwing away fritters. But you keep your paws off my bounty.
Can you just be homeless somewhere else?
You taking me home, baby?
Yeah, you wish.
Wow.
Susan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and great work, by the way. What a great clip that just kind of highlights all the fantastic nuances of this performance on the hit show Cobra Kai.
Yeah, it's just been so much fun. I'm just very thankful to be part of this #1 show in the world, by the way.
Yeah, sorry, I underplayed it, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, we've
well, we were #1 in we were #1 in U.S. and then Chile and then Argentina and then this country and then that country and then finally it was like #1 in the world. So it's fantastic.
Incredible, and obviously we all can't wait for season 3, which hopefully will be in production soon. I know there's been a bit of a stumble because of COVID.
Well, you mean season 3 to air in 2021, and then you mean production for season 4? Right?
Absolutely, yes. So you're way ahead of the game right now, but it's just again such a fantastic show. It's just something that's and thankfully I guess due to the Netflix phenomenon has been able to really elevate the profile of the show.
It has. And it's wonderful. We've got such a wonderful fan base anyway, beginning with the Karate Kid fans that have been fans for over 30 years. And then, they've, of course, fallen in love with Cobra Kai. And then we've gotten all of the new fans, the new Cobra Kai fans. So it's been a great experience for all of us. And, starting at the top with the big 3, John Hurwitz, Josh Heald, and Hayden Schlossberg. And they're just they're so passionate about the show, and they were are still such big fans of the Karate Kid movies that I think that's one reason why it's been so successful is that it's fans making something for fans. And so they take it very seriously, and they come from a comedy background, but then there's a lot of drama in Cobra Kai too, in these people's lives. And of course I play homeless Lynn, who is kind of the comic relief, because Johnny Lawrence, played by the great William Zabka, has got some pretty heavy stuff going on in his life. So,
it always seems like you kind of come in at these sort of key moments, right? Where it's just kind of, and I don't know if the character was designed almost like a conscience for him or like an alter ego, but just to kind of break his darkest moments and kind of snap him out of something, you just seem to pop in at just the right moment.
Well, it's like in episode 1 of season 1, homeless Lynn thought that he was homeless, and he was trying to hustle coin at her mart on her turf. And of course she wasn't going to have that because she's so sassy. But so he's not that much above Lynn. He could easily be in the gutter And I think she knows that, and maybe deep down he even knows that, which makes for an interesting dynamic between those two characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously, unfortunately now with the situation we're dealing with, so many, working American families are kind of on that bubble now, right? And I think that has also lent to the popularity is how many notes, this show hits, in terms of how quickly a person's economic situation can change, right? But also the importance of family and the heart and soul that's at the center of the show.
Yes. I think there's a character for every type situation, every personality. There's, they've created so many diverse, multidimensional characters in this show that it makes it more interesting, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of interesting, we don't want to just talk about Cobra Kai. We want to talk about sort of your journey as an actor. So I want to take a few steps back now. You're originally from North Carolina, correct?
Yes, the Charlotte area.
Okay, so born and raised there. When did you first feel this sort of passion? I know we've read your bio. I believe your father wanted to be an actor for a while. Your mother's a musician. But when did you find your own personal passion that this could potentially be your career?
It wasn't until I was up in my late 20s and had already married and had a couple of little babies and started taking some acting classes just to have a creative outlet. I had left Charlotte and married and moved to this very small but charming little town where my husband's born and raised. And I sort of needed to have a creative outlet to drive to Tampa or Orlando and sort of do my own thing just a little bit, but while raising the kids. So I just did it on a part-time basis. And I had done some modeling when I was younger and had always wanted to get into the business, but Charlotte, Gastonia is not a big hub for the entertainment industry for film and TV either. So, I just really started taking some classes and immediately the door started opening up. And I booked a lot of non-union work for a number of years. And because Florida's a right to work state, so I didn't have to be part of the union, and got some experience. And then I got my union card, my SAG card. And back in the day, we used to do a lot of national commercials in the Central Florida area because you've got Orlando and Tampa, you've got Disney, Universal Studios, Busch Gardens, SeaWorld. So you've got the theme parks, and they used to all be union commercials. So, and a lot of doors opened up that way for me too. But I got my first acting break. I was handpicked actually by Aaron Spelling, the late great producer of the Spelling TV and like 90210 and some of these other great shows. And it was called Safe Harbor. It shot in Jacksonville, Florida. And it starred Gregory Harrison, if you know who that is. He was Gonzo Gates back in Trapper John, MD, and he's just been a working actor for a number of years. He's very recognizable. And his mother was played by Rue McClanahan of the Golden Girls, and Mickey Rooney was in it, and all of these wonderful people. And Aaron cast me as the potential love interest of Gregory Harrison, who played the local sheriff, and I played Claire, the local diner owner. So that was my first break, other than Roger Corman. You may not even know who that is, but he used to be the big indie guy back in the day when there weren't that many indie films. And he cast me in a feature film of his playing a mom again, who was also a wilderness officer. And it was called Looking for, I can't remember, it's an elephant's name. Looking for Trouble. That's it. Thank you, Brian. Looking for Trouble. And it was just the cutest film. And it had a great cast and great director and other producers. And that was, Safe Harbor was my first TV break as a recurring role on a primetime series. And then Looking for Trouble was my first feature film.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And so obviously it seems like you had an incredible run right from the start, even though, like you mentioned, you started a little later in your late 20s, right? And this is after having a family. So how did you manage to balance, your busy work life with your family life? It
was hard. I was always torn. And even though I just worked part-time, it was still very hard for me to leave my babies. And I never stayed gone more than just 2 or 3 nights at the most. I can remember when I was doing Safe Harbor, and it was about a 3-hour drive from me. My baby is my son. My daughter Caroline is the oldest, and then 2 years younger is the baby boy Bo. And he had a very difficult time anytime mommy was gone, because he wanted mommy to put him to bed, and that was important to me. So you can look on my IMDb page and info, and you can see gaps of years where I didn't work very much at all. Now, I may have been doing a commercial here or there, and I may have been doing some print work, and I was always taking classes, but I really did keep the kids a priority. But then when they got a little bit older, we started going to Los Angeles every year for pilot season after I had already wrapped on Safe Harbor and made some contacts. And the kids were both in the business, and it was a wonderful change for us from living and going to school in this very small town where everybody knows everybody, and dragging my kids to LA, but they loved it. They wanted to go, and experiencing different types of people and the business. And they both were really good in the business. My daughter was more focused on acting. My son was fine to do print work because he wanted to go play. He didn't want to have to learn a bunch of lines, But we lived in Oakwood Apartments where every Hillary Duff and everybody grew up living. And it was a great experience for our family. It broadened their horizons and certainly gave me a fix to be in the business out there. And I did have some success. So, we've got great memories of Los Angeles, and it's not all bad out there.
No, absolutely not. And personally, I lived in Los Angeles for 4 years. So, I know the town, fairly well.
So where did you live?
I lived in, if you're familiar with Wilshire Boulevard and the section that's known as the Miracle Mile between Fairfax and La Brea. So my first apartment, it's right next to the La Brea Tar Pits, which is, like this sort of a tourist hotspot. And my first apartment with a roommate was the Maslin Park West Apartments, which was right behind the SAG building, the SAG headquarters.
Yeah, I know exactly where that is. And one of my favorite restaurants was Doughboys, which is on that side of town. And then there's a huge casting office right there on La Brea. Huge.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe across the street. No,
we lived in Toluca Lake usually, I love the valley. And I even lived in Brentwood one year. If you know Cinda Snow, her daughter is Brittany Snow, who's been working for years. And I first worked with Brittany Snow. She's originally from Tampa. When in her first commercial, when she was 5 years old, and I've stayed friends with them, and with Cinda, her mother, who's a manager out there, and I lived with her for one season in Brentwood. So, but I love Toluca Lake and Studio City in that area. That's more like home for me.
Sure, no, absolutely, yeah. I was just back in LA in February, just kind of re-immersing myself in the town, and it was just so weird looking back now because that was right before the lockdown. And how sort of vibrant the city was, and then all the changes obviously that happened. But now it looks like things are slowly starting to come back to life, right? And so slowly but surely, I think that we're going to hopefully get back to that place where everyone's buzzing and working again. But in terms of just kind of refocusing back on your journey. So you were in LA, you were getting some breaks, but at some point you decided to move back out of Los Angeles. Is that correct?
Well, I never lived there year round, never hit the big time, so we would come back, and because my husband had to work, somebody had to have a regular income. So he was such a blessing, because that guy, I'd never find another guy like this. He would commute and fly to see us in Los Angeles every other week. Wow. Yeah. And he would do that for months, and, was just so supportive and almost pushed me to do my thing. I think he knew that I had to have that kind of outlet, and that I'm a very driven kind of person. And he's always encouraged me to be my best self. And he was just a very confident, successful guy. And I've been very fortunate to have that kind of support.
Wow. Yeah. And, when you choose a journey like the artist journey, the actor journey, it's so important to have that kind of support system, particularly from family, right? Which kind of allows you to kind of take these chances, because, so oftentimes that's really the make or break moment, is whether you have that support system or not, that allows you to pursue these big sort of dreams and careers, which you've done very well, by the way. And I want to talk more about the amazing work you've done. And, obviously we're a Miami-based show, and we love to talk about our hometown shows. At one point, we
Yeah.
were also involved in
Yeah,
Bloodline.
Dolphins.
Yes, go Dolphins,
Yeah,
go Heat,
Bloodline.
go Mars.
Yeah, go Salmons, right? Yeah, but listen, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right in my backyard, and
Absolutely.
Tom Brady is our quarterback, and what's his name? Gronk is joined too. So go Bucks,
Right.
even though I do
Yeah.
love the Fins.
Yeah, so bringing that Patriots rivalry down a little closer to home. I like it better when it's an
Exactly.
in-state rivalry.
Yeah, I think so too.
So how did you get involved with Bloodline?
One of my dearest friends is a big casting director in the Southeast. Her name is Lori Wyman. Do you know Lori? Lori Wyman Casting?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've known her forever. And she actually cast me in my first big feature film, which was Rosewood, which was written and directed by the late John Singleton. So I was completely honored. Don Cheadle was in it, Esther Roll, John Voight. And so anyway, Lori and I go way back. And she was the casting director for Bloodline, which shot in South Florida, actually down where the Keys began. And there was a role of this family therapist. And I auditioned for it, put myself on tape, and can't remember if I drove down for the callback or maybe I did. Maybe it was booked directly from the tape, and I booked it. And it was with Kyle Chandler, who is fantastic, of course. And they were going to bring my character back because if you're a Bloodline fan, you know that the Rayburn family could certainly use a lot of counseling because they're so dysfunctional, right? But I was just so honored to get in on that show before they canceled. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was an unfortunate thing, and I know obviously that ties into the discussion that we always have in Florida about incentives and how that kind of drives the production business, correct? Right? We had
totally.
also Ballers on the heels of that, which had a great run in Miami, that moved to Los Angeles.
Lori passed that too.
Yeah, that was another great show that had such an impact on the local production community here as well as the local talent, the actors that were cast in it. And, some of that business, as you know, moved to California, but a lot of it has moved to Georgia, which I know Cobra Kai shoots a lot in Georgia, right?
They do, because Georgia's got such a fantastic tax incentive, and it's all about the bottom dollar, the bottom line. And Louisiana, they've got a great one too. And I have worked quite a bit in Louisiana and Mississippi, in that market. Mississippi had a tax incentive. Florida used to be third in the country. It was LA, New York, and then Florida. And then, they messed with it up in Tallahassee, and we have $0. But, we've tried. We've done Rally and Tally, and there are some rumors that things are going to look up, and I know Lori has actually still been casting. It's just amazing because she has such a great work ethic that she still has cast a few Hallmark movies and some indie films that actually I've been in that are Lifetime movies. I've been in a couple of those. So, we've been fortunate to work at all. It's going to get better in Florida.
Yeah, no, I think it is. And the silver lining to all of this, obviously now it's a time where everyone's looking for silver linings, is that if you recall, the last time we did have major incentives was specifically because we were coming out of the 08-09 recession. And Tallahassee was looking for ways to kind of, get the economy going again, when tourism had taken a hit, which is our number one industry. And so I think, unfortunately, we're in a similar situation now. And the fact that it's a huge election year in November, I think that we may have a good shot, at least under the guise of economic recovery, to have something significant again in the near future, just to get the wheels of the Florida economy going again. And we know production spends so much money in such a short amount of time that it's a great to have to pull ourselves out of this recession we're in now.
Oh, absolutely. And I love your optimism. So, yeah.
Yes, I am the eternal optimist, and I think that it's just because we have so many other assets to offer. Me being a homer in Miami guy, even though I lived and worked in LA for several years, Miami's home, Miami's where my heart is. We have great locations. We have such amazing production crews. Traditionally, we have super amazing talents like yourself, in our neighborhoods that we just. There's so much good. And then you look at these sort of, like you mentioned, the indie film world. Who would have predicted Moonlight, right? 3 Academy Awards.
Right.
Shot entirely in Miami. Local filmmakers. It was actually shot 3 months after our incentives expired, believe it or not. And I remember, we interviewed the co-producer of that, and he mentioned that there was a big push to try to get that show to move to Louisiana. And it was because the writer and director were from here, and they fought so hard to keep it here that they said, we'd rather do it for less money, but do it right, than move it to Louisiana. And I think that there is a lot of heart with the local industry here, and I think that's what keeps me going.
Right. It's very competitive.
Yeah, no, it is. You know, it is. Yeah. And it's a global, like you said, mentioned, it's a global business now. Everybody is suffering right now. Everybody's vying for those production dollars. And so, you know, you have to be able to compete, not only at a regional level, forget about Georgia, Louisiana, but at a national and international level. So the stakes are very high. But again, you know, I always hold hope because of our talent, because of our local filmmakers are doing amazing work. This weekend, there's another indie coming out directed by John Leguizamo called Critical Thinking, which I want to give a shout out to the producer, Carla Berkowitz. Yeah, it's actually John Leguizamo's directorial debut. It's an indie film shot entirely in Miami based on a true story of an inner city high school, Miami-Jackson High, which won the national chess tournament against the top prep schools in the country. And it's a true underdog story. I mean, it's basically the Karate Kid in the world of chess with these high school kids, essentially. Yeah, so that, you know, unfortunately, they were set to have their world premiere at South by Southwest, which got canceled because of the pandemic. But they found a distributor.
But that's fantastic that they got in. That's huge. I mean, South by Southwest Film Festival is the third biggest film festival, as far as I'm concerned, or I know of, in the country. I mean, it's Sundance and Tribeca and then South by. So that's huge. Good for him. Yeah.
It was a big deal, and so, you know, John Leguizamo stars as the teacher, but also it's his directorial debut. But again, it's a local story produced by local producers, shot entirely in Miami-Dade County. So, you know, that's one of those that we're also, again, just kind of hoping is going to push the ball forward for us, just like Moonlight did. And that'll be out this weekend on VOD and limited theatrical. So we're definitely rooting for that.
Good to know. What was the name of it again?
It's called Critical Thinking. And they have Facebook page, they have Instagram, Twitter. So, you know, I can shoot you that link as well if you want to follow it. But I think that, like I said, every time the chips are down, and like you said, you have to be optimistic. I look at those projects, I look at the things that you're doing, and I feel like there's so much to look forward to, and I'm just excited. And I'm excited to talk to you about everything you've done.
Great. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. And there's two more questions. Obviously, I want to know sort of what's next for you as an actor. And then I have a couple of questions for younger actors that are coming into the game today. So the first question again is, you know, sort of what's next for you? What are you kind of planning now in terms of your career?
I have been cast in an independent film called 22, The Unforgotten Soldier by Sam Medina. If you IMDb Sam, I don't know if you know him or not, but he's been in some very big movies, and he's a wonderful actor. And he actually, I had the honor of being directed by him in his directorial debut in a television series called Sons of Thunder. And I think we shot in New Orleans. He lives in the New Orleans area part of the year. But he and I just really clicked. Our energies clicked, and he's very driven and optimistic like you are. And we just work great together. And so he just, you know, is a direct casting, which I appreciate. And it's a labor of love for everybody, because 22, The Forgotten Soldier is about veteran suicide, veteran PTSD. And he has a heart and a passion for that. And I do too, coming from somewhat of a military family myself. So we hope to, he's in pre-production right now. We hope to start shooting in September or October. So I'm really honored to be part of that.
Wow. That sounds like a phenomenal project. And again, another huge topic nowadays is, you know, partly due to the pandemic, but mental health issues have become such a part of the national conversation now, whether it be mental illness, suicide prevention, depression. So I think that and particularly for our veterans and our war heroes, I think that's such a beautiful project to be involved in. So I can't wait to hear more.
Check it out, guys. We're actually in the middle of an Indiegogo campaign. And yeah, you can check out Sam Medina, 22, The Unforgotten Soldier. And he's also still open to talking with veterans or people who have been, who have had someone in their life who has suffered from suicide or PTSD or any issues surrounding those veterans. He's very open to talking with those folks.
That's fantastic. Well, with Indigo link, we'd love to share it with our followers as well. So shoot it over.
Okay, I will.
That sounds like a great project.
Thanks.
And then, just to kind of bring it back full circle, because you have so much to share as a successful actor now, what advice would you give a young actor, whether here in Florida or in LA or anywhere in the world, really, that's just starting their career now? Like, what would be your sort of staple pieces of advice for the business today?
Don't quit your day job. I would advise people, and it depends on the age too. I mean, if they're still in school, they probably would want to start doing student films on stage in the theater department and community theater. That's a great training ground and a great way to get to know that side of the business. And then if they want to get into on camera and film type work, probably take some really good classes with really good teachers. So save your money for classes and learn and study. And I think just getting up in front of other people is the first thing that people, that actors or wannabe actors need to do. And it's just like with doing on camera work. And I'm still learning the technical side of the business because there's a lot of, there's a lot of that's involved that you don't really learn in a lot of acting classes. But at least if you're doing like, Lori, she does a lot of auditioning classes for new people and basically hitting your mark. And if there is a prop in the commercial audition, how to utilize that prop in the best way and how to have your moment before, the middle, and then your moment after. And all of these different little tricks. And then of course you're going to get headshots and an agent. And then an agent will submit you for various roles, and then you start auditioning. So it's a learning process. And, like in Los Angeles, there's a lot of kids like my kids that started out doing it really young. And the first thing that they did is, they did school plays to see if you have that little bug for the biz and have that performance passion. And that creative outlet, if you have to have that. And that's what I like to tell people too, is find out what your passion is and then do that, because there is so much rejection in our business. I mean, it's mostly rejection, and occasionally you get paid to work. So it's almost like you have to look at it and enjoy the process. I have to enjoy the auditioning process. If I have to go to a callback, I need to enjoy that because it's giving me the opportunity to work. And I like to work. I like to prepare and, play investigator and really get into the meat of the sides if I'm not given the whole script of what I'm going to be auditioning for, and just try to make some moments and figure out what's going on with these characters and have something that you can have in your back pocket, if you decide to do completely opposite with some of the dialogue, and just to be unexpected and more spontaneous, which takes trusting yourself. And I think that's been, for me and most of my friends in the business, something that we always work on is being comfortable in the moment and comfortable in our skin so that we can trust and let the creativity happen and let that magic happen and have some magical moments with the other person in the scene, or if you're in a monologue or whatever it is. But you have to have a passion and love that, because it's really about the work. It's not about, am I going to get this audition? And I mean, I do that. I mean, I go through the whole deal, but I'm able to let it go very quickly with disappointment, because you have to have a thick skin. And you have to let things go, or you're just going to go down that rabbit hole of depression or discouragement, which I have been numerous times in my career and in my life. And, you have to have a life. You can't make acting your life. It's a part of my life, and it's a big part of my life, and it's my passion. But I have a life, and I think that makes me a better person, a more well-rounded person, and hopefully a more interesting actor.
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, spoken like a true sensei of the art form. Balance, right?
No mercy.